Hey guys, it's Vlad from Review Outdoor Gear. As you can see, I've got the Glidecam here. I wanted to shoot another video about the Glidecam just as an update video, or kind of a part 2 to the other one that we've posted a while back already. We've received a lot of questions and remarks about it, so kind of wanted to fill you in on how it's been going with the Glidecam, because it's kind of a work in progress. All of the updates that we've made, and so I wanted to share that with you, maybe give you some pointers as to some of the more complicated parts on here and stuff like that. So hopefully this is an informative video and I can help you out and answer some of your questions. Alright, let's get into it. So one of the most common questions about the Glidecam is, how much does it cost? Well, that's kind of a dependent question on the amount of materials that you already have and what you need to buy, and how much it costs where you are. So honestly, it can cost anywhere from $0 to maybe $50 or $60. For example, mine cost me probably $5 total, maybe a little bit more, the updated version. I mean, I just had this stuff laying around in my shop that I found and used, but if you were to go out and buy the materials, at a reasonable price, it would probably cost you around $50 or $60 to make. You need to buy a wheel or something like that for the gimbal, just some hardware, some sheet metal for the bottom, and a tripod at a thrift store, which you can probably buy for $5 anywhere, any thrift store if you can find. So yeah, the answer to that question is it depends, but anywhere around $50 or so. I know that if you go to Walmart, you can buy the scooter wheels, which you can use for the gimbal, for like a rudimentary gimbal, for $10 for 2 of them. So that's pretty cheap. So another really common question is, how do I mount this tripod leg to this base plate? Or how do I mount the top plate to the tripod leg? People are thinking that maybe the bolt goes all the way through the leg or something, but no, it does not. And here's how I actually mount that. Maybe it was not clear enough in the original video. What I do is get a bolt or threaded rod piece of about 2 or 3 inches for the bottom, and then for the top it'd be anywhere around 7 or 8. And then I get the corresponding size of nuts, 2 of those. And what I get then is a piece of wood, just maybe a 1-inch piece of, it can be any kind of wood, doesn't matter. I drill a hole through it that I loosely fit this bolt or threaded rod piece. Once I have drilled that, I sand or file this piece of wood down so that it would loosely, and the key here is that it's loose, would loosely fit inside of the diameter of your tripod. If your tripod is circular, make a circular piece of wood, and that fits right inside of there, loosely, like that. Once you've done that, and you've got these bolts and the bolt and the nuts that fit on there, you insert the little contraption with the threaded rod and the bolts inside of your tripod leg, and then you have to glue it in there. Now, what I use is an epoxy, but it can be any kind of hard setting glue, like maybe a quick JB Weld or something. It could even be like an Elmer's kind of, or a wood glue. But if you're using wood glue, make sure that you drill a hole and put a bolt through there. I'll show you how to do that later. But basically, you insert this in here. Make sure it's aligned perfectly, this way and that way. You pour your glue in there. If it's too liquidy, your glue is going to keep on pouring through. So you might actually have to tape it around the bottom and pour it in the top from this end. So if you're using epoxy, you'll let it set part of the way, then straighten it out, make sure it's all straight. Once it's set, and this is a very important step, drill a hole straight through the tripod leg, the wood, and the threaded rod, and then insert maybe a rivet or a screw with a nut on the other end, like this. you can see here what I've done. I've drilled a hole and inserted rivets on both sides. This is really important because I didn't do this before, and when you start to tighten the bottom nut here, the glue might not be strong enough to hold that, and then the whole threaded rod and the wood might start coming out of there. So that's an important part there. And this way it's just another safeguard that it'll never fall out of there. If you have a bolt or something through there, or a screw, it won't fall out. So that's how you attach this bolt into the bottom of the tripod leg. You don't get a threaded rod and stick it all the way through, because that way you won't be able to actually adjust your tripod to the length, and that's a really important part. People have also asked me where I got this base plate for the bottom of the tripod, and the answer is I had a friend mill it for me. He had a metal shop in high school, and I asked him to mill this for me. I gave him the dimensions and this little drawing of it, and he made that for me. So that's a part that you might not be able to get easily for yourself unless you have somebody who can mill it for you. But honestly, you don't need something that's, you know, this thick and that well made for this Glidecam to work. You can get a simpler solution that might not just look as good, but it will still function almost as well as this one. The only advantage of this is the strength it has, because it's really thick, and that it has these milled little slots in there that you can move the weight around. But you can make one of these. You can go get some sheet metal that's even thinner than this. It'll be just as strong, and cut a hole, drill a hole in the bottom. You know, use a metal cutting jigsaw and cut this out. And if you have time, you can file these slots out. So you can make one of these yourself. You can even go buy an aluminum plate and do that. So I had it easy for myself. I had a friend make it for me, but you can make it yourself. Also, I've made myself some custom weights on here that I've actually cut out of sheet metal instead of the washer. Although I do still have a washer on there. I'm working on getting rid of that because I added some extra weight on the camera, which is this microphone. So that answers that question. Another update that I've made with the Glidecam is this plate, this Manfrotto quick release plate. I found that after going on many of our backpacking trips that you often want to take the camera off of the Glidecam, and this allows you to do that without having to rebalance the camera every single time. So all this is just this nice aluminum plate on the bottom here, and that slides right on here like that, and it clicks into place. And all you do is lock it underneath there, and you're good to go. It's not gonna fall off. It's really sturdy, made out of aluminum, and by a really reputable company, and I'm sure it's not gonna move. And that's just a little luxury piece I put on there. I actually paid more money for that one piece of the setup than I did for building the whole thing. It was about $50, I think, for that. But you know, we're getting a little bit more into more serious video shooting, and that's just a nice piece. You know, I thought if we ever get a nicer tripod, this will fit on there as well, and that'll make things even easier. So the final and most important, or most influential, I guess, update that I've made on this Glidecam, which has really improved the performance of the whole rig, is this new gimbal that I've made. I found that with the scooter wheels, you can get away with those. You can use them, but the problem with them is that they're made out of rubber, and unless you have a new wheel, and even if you do have a new wheel, they're just not balanced perfectly well. And I found that for this gimbal, for the whole thing to work perfectly, it's vital that you can center and fine-tune this gimbal. So let me show you what I've done here. So I've drawn a couple diagrams for you guys here. This is a more simplified, maybe more easier to make version of the gimbal, and here is the final one that I have. And I'll maybe try to use these to explain how this works, because it's just kind of hard just showing you I thought I should take the gimbal off because I want to take it off, and that'll take me a while to rebalance it and get everything back in working order. And I will try to scan these in, and there should be a link below to a Dropbox, so you can go there and download these. And if somebody has a better suggestion on how to do that, maybe an easier way to share these files, don't hesitate to leave those in the comments, and I'll try to get an easier way, although I think the Dropbox version should work pretty well. So basically what I've got here, this is a previous version that I made after I took off my scooter wheel from the gimbal. And this basically has all the functions of the new gimbal. They're just not as tuned, or not as perfected. So basically what this is I just cut a piece of wood. You can see here, I think this is walnut or something, a pretty strong wood, although I probably should have used hickory. This was just kind of a prototype. Basically what it is I'll take these off here. Piece of wood, it's about 2 inches or so across, with a bigger hole. I think it's about 1.25 inches or so. Let's see what the diameter of this hole is. It's about an inch hole in the middle. Try to drill it as close as you can to the center. Basically what this does is it allows you to get these 2 bearings, put them inside of here, and it kind of acts like a scooter wheel, but the difference is once you get this plate back on here and tighten it down, these screws here, these 4 screws on the outside, I can now twist them, and when I twist them, they will actually move. You can see that when I twist them, they screw in and out. They will move those bearings whichever way I want them to inside of this whole setup, because you will need to do this to get the center, or the weight of this gimbal, perfectly in the middle. So center of gravity needs to be right down the center when you put it on your on the Glidecam shaft. So it can be as simple as this: just a piece of wood, a nice hard wood. Don't use pine, because then this is a pretty vital part of the Glidecam. If it breaks, your camera will fall over, and you might break your camera. So all this one is just some sheet metal here that I've drilled a big hole in the middle, and just put that on both sides. Have the screws to fasten those down to hold the bearings in place, and these screws to adjust the center of the actual gimbal. So being able to adjust or fine-tune your gimbal is really important to allow you to balance the camera perfectly in all directions. So you can see I can balance it perfectly forwards, to the left, there you go, like that, facing towards me, perfectly balanced, towards the bottom, and to the right. So this allows you to, when you're maybe shooting and you want to maybe make a shot like this, when you turn, it'll be balanced all the way through the shot. Whereas with the scooter wheel, the issue was that you could make it perfectly balanced forwards, and it would hang there, and you could shoot a perfect shot and walking forwards. But as soon as you began to turn your camera, it began to slide, and it would not, it could not drop straight down like it's supposed to. So this really improves the functionality and the versatility of shots that you can make, and that's a really important part. So I made a new version of the gimbal, and to make this one yourself, you might need a little bit of more advanced tools. You will need a welder. You might be able to get by without one, but it'd be really handy. So the way I made this is I got a pipe. I believe this is a 1 3/4 inch outer diameter pipe. It doesn't really matter as long as it's within 2 inches or so. Pipe like that. And I got a smaller pipe with a 1-inch diameter on the end. And I cut both of these pipes to the length of exactly 2 of these bearings. So with the 1-inch 1-inch pipe, a bearing will slide exactly inside of there, and I use that to go inside of the actual gimbal, and that holds those 2 bearings together so that they're not independent. They kind of act as one big bearing. The bigger 2-inch or 1 3/4-inch pipe acts as the outer piece. So you cut that just to the length of these 2 bearings, or maybe a hair shorter. Then you will also need 2 of these 1-inch, 1/4-inch coarse thread bolts to go on right here and right here. And also just some fine thread machine bolts, 4 of those, maybe 1 inch as well. And then you will also need a couple longer ones, maybe 1.5 inches to hold the whole thing together. So you can see here, I got my 1/4-inch threaded bolts in there, right here. Then I have those 4 machine bolts on the outside, and 2 longer machine bolts to hold the whole thing together. So once you get this, you also need 2 cover pieces. I just actually cut these out myself and shaped them to fit on there. You could go to the hardware store and find some washers that would fit exactly on top, and that would save you the hassle of cutting them out and drilling a hole in the middle. And if you can get a thicker gauge, it'll also be stronger. So once you get all this cut out and you get the pieces fine-tuned and fitting together perfectly, you will want to weld, if you can, these 2 bolts like this on the outsides, and this is what will mount to the actual bearing on your gimbal handle. Also, if you can, weld the bottom circle piece or the washer to the wider pipe. Again, you don't have to do this. You can just fasten it all together with these bolts, and you could just leave the 1/4-inch bolts unwelded, and then it'll be loose until you tighten everything up. But I found that with welding it together, or at least maybe using like a quick weld, like a JB weld type of material, it'll just make it a lot easier to adjust, and if you loosen things, it won't become wobbly. And then you leave the top part unwelded, and that gets tightened down with the bolts. So if you need to maintenance or pull out the bearings from inside of there, you can do that. So what this allows you to do is it allows those bearings in the middle, right here, to be adjusted by these screws. You can, for example, you unscrew this bolt a 1/4 turn and then screw this bolt in a 1/4 turn, that would move your bearings that way. Or if you unscrewed both of these and screwed both of these in, that would move the bearing that way, and so forth. I've had trouble finding a video exactly of how to do this on YouTube, but if I do, I'll put an annotation in the video to that video, a little link, so you can go and check that out. And if you want to actually do this, that'll help you out with the gimbal. So there you go. That's kind of how this works. You can make one out of wood. It will work. It might take a couple of tries, but you know, it's just wood. You can reuse the hardware. If you fail on one piece of wood, get another one. But again, if you do use wood, use hardwood. Probably the best is hickory, then ash, and then oak. So people have been saying that I wouldn't trust, my camera with wood, but this is all hickory wood, which is actually really strong. They actually, like axe handles and stuff, are made out of hickory wood, and they put up to quite a bit of abuse. So it will survive if you do it right. I've glued it, screwed it down, and it's been going for 4 or 5 years now. It's been through miles and miles of trails and abuse and water and everything. It's still going strong. Alright guys, I hope that helped. I hope that cleared up some questions for you. Give you a couple useful tips on how to improve your Glidecam if you've made one like this. And maybe if you're watching for the first time, you can go check out the first video that I made that kind of goes through in more detail the general rundown of how to make the whole thing. If you want to see some sample footage, here's a video that we actually shot with this setup, and it has absolutely no stabilization. It's not slowed down, so all it is just video right off of the camera with no stabilization or anything in post-processing except, you know, color adjustments and whatever. So that's a little video of our trip that we took. We went an overnight trip to Moose Lake. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed that video. Leave your comments below, suggestions. You know, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. Also, you can subscribe to our channel and check out our other videos. We've got a lot of other outdoor videos and reviews and just generally other cool stuff. So if you liked it, give us a thumbs up and share the video. That helps too. Alright guys, it's been Vlad with Review Outdoor Gear. See you in the next video.